Lifter Guy from Walk to Work, a mobile Hearthstone podcast. Leaving the train station and heading home from work. It's raining way too much to play Hearthstone, so let's listen to Concede.
Well, hello everyone, and welcome to episode 92 of Concede, a Hearthstone podcast dedicated to making the competitive side of the game more accessible to you. My name is Kenny, and I go by KCCO Gamer, and all the way from Thunder Bluff, Louisiana, we have Cinder.
Can I put down boilerplate real quick?
Yeah.
Is really patriotic and has a full estate of fireworks more or less pointed over the roof of my house. So at some point, my mic may just randomly cut off during this episode, so be forewarned.
Well, you'll still be here. We just may not be able to hear you.
I'm going to subject everyone to that racket.
Yep. All right, and also all the way from Undercity, Georgia, we have Appa. Wait, we're Sans Appa.
No.
No.
Napa.
Napa. No Napa. No Appa. But that beautiful voice you heard is from Gadgets and New York. That's ridiculous hat.
Oh, you were talking about my voice?
Yes, your voice.
Yes. Hi, everybody.
Hey. All right. So, yes. Concede is supported in a large part by you, the listener. If you'd like to find out how you can support us, you can receive rewards in return of your generous donations. Head on to patreon.com/coinconcede. We're just ever so climbing on that, but we'll get to that in a little bit. Let's get to our ladder play. So, how did you end the season last week, Cinder?
I actually did make it to Legends. I grinded out the last two ranks with Murloc Paladin, same build that I coached Samurai Flea on. It got me right up there real quick, so I had a couple days to spare, but I didn't really do anything with it. So this week I'm working on, this month, I'm just going to work on Water Rogue or Tempo Rogue, if you would like to call it that. It's like Tempo Rogue plus Finja in the Murloc package. And I want to just play that all month, with a couple of exceptions to save my sanity. But I'm currently at rank 11, and my goal for this month is just rank 5. I just want to make rank 5 with that deck. That's all I want to do.
There you go. And what about you, Hat?
Well, I don't recommend making Legend at 11 p.m. on the 30th, but I did it. I didn't play enough at the beginning of last month, and I kind of got punished for it by hitting my rank 2 wall on the 27th instead of normally about a week earlier than that. So I was kind of pushing up against a big wall of Eater of Secrets and meta shifts, and I tried about every different mage deck there was. I've been pushing for Golden Mage, but I finally got there with the build of Burn Mage. I posted on my Twitter. It's modeled after Fishy's build, Vincent De Silva. It's Burn Mage, but it does have the Mana Worms, no Babbling Books. It has one Doomsayer, one Blizzard, double Volcanic Potion, so it's really AoE centric. And it started really performing for me when I hit this big glut of Token Shaman that I was just able to clear and clear and clear and clear over and over again. And it plays Acolyte over Cabal Courier. I strongly recommend trying that. Acolyte, it draws you the cards in your super broken mage deck instead of drawing you random cards that might be from other classes that aren't as super broken. So definitely play Acolyte instead. And this season so far, I'm playing Giant's Mage, which is APX Void's list. It's Tempo Mage, but somehow never really feels like it runs out of resources. And also plays double Arcane Giant. And so far, I've played 16 games with it this season. I've won 13 of them. So I'm hovering around rank 12 with an 81% win rate. And the deck just feels super gross to play with.
Yeah, that sounds cool. I'm actually that you kind of convinced me to play a little bit of mage. I'm a little easy to convince, I guess. But my goal was to actually play druid, both sides, wild and standard. I think I'll play a little bit more standard this month. Get away from wild. It'll be my wild this month to get away from the other ladder. But either way, I'm trying to work on getting my rogue or not my rogue, my druid to 60 to finish that up with what few games I play per day. And yeah, I finished the month rank 5 in wild. I got priest cards again from my chest.
Wait.
And yeah, I don't know. I keep thinking that Cinder's going to jump in here, and I keep thinking his audio's not carrying over to me.
They're on the button, basically. Any minute
Yeah.
now.
So it seems like it's chopping at you a little bit. So I apologize. Let's go ahead and talk a little bit about coaching. Basically busy people for me. I was going to have 2 coachings, but we're going to have some makeups early this week, or early next week, I should say, because this week's already halfway over, the day after 4th of July. But yeah, we're going to be ready for July. I'm excited. How about you, Cinder?
I'm ready and waiting to do July. Gonna knock it out the park.
And I'm sure Hat is ready too.
Oh man, so coaching I love coaching. I think I had over 10 or 11 coachings last season. So this is the sort of thing. I'm working on this with Kenny immediately after the show today. We're actually going to put together a survey to collect your information a little bit more efficiently, and that should be going out after this recording, but before you hear this episode, just to kind of collect information about what you want to work on and when you're available, so we can collect it in a more efficient way. We want to make sure everybody that signs up for this benefit gets it. We understand it's a big reason to contribute, and we appreciate all of you that are contributing enough to receive the coaching. It means a lot to us, and we want to make sure we prioritize the time we give you.
So yeah, if you received an email and you didn't know what it was, now you know what it is. It's okay. If you didn't see it, now you can go check. So did we want to talk a little bit about Listener League?
We can mention it here. The Listener League is actually doing amazingly well. It hit full swing last Saturday. People were just super excited. Most of the games for this week have already been played, which is a really good sign. Yeah, I had some admin things that I need to personally work on. I think next time we do this, I'm going to be really strict about deck lists. Like if you don't turn in your deck list before the tournament starts, I'm just going to drop you. Unfortunately, that's just kind of the way we have to do it to keep it fair. But this time around, I just want to get everybody in and accommodate as many people as we could. And it's in full swing. And the casting went great last Saturday. Appa and I casted live on the channel. I had no idea how much fun casting is. I knew how challenging it was, but I didn't know I was going to have that much fun. It was a blast. I can't wait to do it again.
Yeah, hopefully I can help out sometime down the road too. Couldn't really do it, but yeah.
Or I said if she's ever free, she's going to come do it with us, but that's a big if.
Yeah, Cora having free time seems unlikely.
What free time she has. But yeah, okay, let's go ahead and we've got a lot of news to hit here next, but let's talk about our new pledges here. So big thank you goes to Eric L and Renee G for their pledges this week, and special thank you to Donald Yu and Mike Sopko for increasing their pledges. So we are generally gracious for all of your support. Thank you so much. We also want to make a big announcement, and I hope you have this ready, Cinder. Mike is now our second producer.
By the holy light! We're not worthy! We're not worthy! We're not worthy!
So, yes, we have 2 producers now. I'm so happy to announce that Psych Mopko, or Mike Sopko, however you want to say it, is joining Variatus as our second producer. So he'll be helping out. Really cool dude. Yeah, so I'm excited. Hat, you want to mention anything here?
Literally, while we were doing the pre-stream, he tweeted at me, he's like, let me know when you're going live. I said, okay. And they said, oh, and I had the extra Twitch Prime Amazon sub, so I just gave it to you. It's like, what? Stop being so generous. But at the same time, please don't. We love you.
Yeah,
I'm blown away by people's just passion for the show. We love you guys.
Yeah, we're coming in on, when I started the show in February, we're now at 8 times the monthly contribution level that was happening 5 months ago. 8 times.
Basically. Yep.
It's insane.
It's lots of love.
Yeah.
All right, so let's kick it into the news segment. Thank you. All right, the first thing I'm going to take over this because Hat, you're going to do some talking, and yeah. So Midsummer Fire Festival, you can earn double the gold for quests. I hope all of you at least caught a little bit of the beginning and saved up some of the quests. And I definitely did. So it's all about Ragnaros, Firelord, and his mini-me. So have you guys actually played the Brawl? That's kind of a little bit related to this.
And no one gets it. Every time I played, people like start attacking my face. Like, no, just leave your stuff on the board and let Ragnaros blow it up, and then get your fireworks. Basically, what happens if you have Ragnaros blow up enough of your dudes on the board, enough minions, you get little fireworks added to your WoW emotes when in all your games. So it's a nice, fun little thing, and your opponent can see it too. So yeah, load up the Brawl and just load up the board and let things die.
It's like a co-op, but not a co-op, or could be co-op. Yeah, I haven't played it yet, so I'm gonna play it probably after the show here, just to get it out of the way.
Yeah, I'm part of the problem that Cinder mentioned because I had 7 minutes today at work to sneak a game real quick, and I was like, well, I want my pack. How about Aggro Shaman? And yeah, and it turns out when you buff Mini Rag with Flame Tongue Totem, it does shoot the extra pings. So so I used the Flame Tongue Totem and then patches to get an extra like 6 damage. It was pretty disgusting. But then immediately after that game, Cinder's like, "Stop killing your opponent so fast," and I just kind of meekly put my phone away.
I didn't first that too. I had no idea, but once I figured it out,
Yeah.
I read about it first, so I'll probably end up doing that. We'll see. I may play it just to play something fast and then play it again so someone else can play fast or something. We'll see. So that's the first bit of news. Also, all wild sets will now be available for purchase again, but it's not for gold, right? It's only in-app purchases and for real money. I believe that's right. I'm trying to add the link here to the show notes. You guys want to say anything?
Wild is not my format, but there are a lot of people who specifically love Wild, so it's good that people can increase their collections and get legendaries they're missing. That's good.
Yeah,
That's nice.
It says the products are available at regular price from the announcement. I'm not sure if they can use gold or not, but I'm pretty sure you're right that it's regular dollars.
Yeah, I'm pretty positive too.
Yep. So, and I will say, if you've never played Naxxramas before, if you are used to completing normal heroic adventures, this one is way harder than your average normal heroic adventure. Way, way harder.
Good to know. Good to know. The other thing, the expansion announcement is scheduled for tomorrow. Tomorrow being Thursday, July 6th, 7 p.m. So we recorded before it. Don't think that we're going to comment on it because we don't know. But Hat, what would you say? What's your guess
On the expansion?
on the expansion?
There's a lot of talk about Lich King, but every time I've tried to guess in a Hearthstone expansion, they just make up a new property. So I don't know. It's Karazhan was pretty easy to see coming. This one has some hints, but I'm not sure if I feel comfortable staking a claim on it. I'm excited for Friday. I would say that the hints right now are pointing at Return of the Lich King, but I don't know. They typically kind of alternate between happier and more serious adventures as well in a different theme, so I wouldn't be surprised because the last expansion was Kara and Ungoro. Before that, Whispers was definitely a little on the darker side, so I wouldn't be surprised if this one is a little bit, a little bit more heavy.
It would be nice. I actually would like that more than what I'll say. Just to say, I think it's going to be ninjas versus murlocs. No, pirates. We'll pick pirates.
Too many pirates. No more pirates.
We need ninjas though.
Yes.
Although it kind of, I guess you could say maybe Jade is stealthy ninja-ish.
I mean,
I didn't get a feel for it though.
they might try and be stealthy until they make 8/8s for 1 mana. That's not very stealthy. That's a blunt instrument.
Cool. Yeah, I'm gonna pick the next one here. We're gonna keep moving along. As far as the let's go the Greater Crater promotion. You want to actually talk about that a little bit, Hat? I'm gonna kick it to you.
The Greater Crater promotion. There's a deal. If you buy packs, you get more packs. Let me see the specifics here. They're doing a deal on packages, and so if you buy 7 packs, you get 2 extra. You get 9. If you buy 15 packs, you get 5 extra. You get 20. If you buy 40 packs, you get 12 extra. You get 52. If you buy 60 packs, you get an extra 18. That's PC only. You can't buy that 60 packs on mobile for some reason, but you're going to be able to spend the same amount of money and get more stuff. So this might be to be competitive with Amazon coins and kind of change the litany that Blizzard is fighting right now about the game being too expensive to play, that if you buy packs right now, you just get a little bit extra for Ungoro only.
I never thought about that, putting it that way. Kind of like the Amazon coin, but I guess you could still use Amazon for the...
Oh yeah, you can probably double dip, right?
Right.
Because you can use Amazon coins towards this and still get the stuff because it's still through the Blizzard store.
Yeah, double dip.
Okay.
When I dip, you dip, we dip.
That's all right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sender's going to stay out of it.
Yeah.
All right. And also, we have China. This is something I added here. So China buys dust now instead of actual card packs. So based on the gambling laws, I guess, in China, they're ending up buying, like, if they want to buy, quote unquote, buy 78 packs, well, they're buying 78 dust, and Blizzard just gives them or gifts them the pack per dust. So they get, I guess, a little bit extra dust for the packs that they are technically buying. So this kind of gets away around the laws, I think. And yeah, they changed a little bit of the UI around for it. So very interesting. Anything you want to add here, Hat?
I'll be honest, I didn't realize that you're literally just buying 1 dust particle, 1 mote of dust, and getting a pack with it. Like, it's like if someone told you couldn't sell beer, so it's like, now selling free napkin, comes with complimentary beer.
Yes.
It's okay. It's
I think that's
interesting.
how it works, right? Yeah, it says upon purchase of Arcane Dust, players receive a gift from Blizzard with card packs equal to the amount of Arcane Dust purchased.
Yeah,
it
no,
seems...
that's what this looks like, is that every purchase you are buying a mote of dust, and I learned the word mote is an individual dust particle from 1600 Dust. They call their listeners motes.
There you go.
So buying a single particle of dust that also comes with a pack is amusing to me. That's how I'm going to put it.
So yeah, that's I thought that was very interesting. So I wanted to add that too. Last part of the news here, and this is a little bit of extra content here for you guys. Obviously, Cinder is having some audio issues over there. He's got a mute, so we pre-recorded an interview. So I'm going to kick it over to Cinder to play the interview here, and this is with Gia D.
So a couple of weeks ago, we reported on World Esports Games announcing they would have a separate women's division for Hearthstone in addition to their main Hearthstone tournament. After that announcement, a debate erupted on Twitter about the issue of women's divisions in esports, and specifically for Hearthstone. One of the prominent voices in this debate is Jadi, a Hearthstone caster from the Philippines, and she's here with us today to talk about the story. So welcome to Concede.
Yeah, thanks so much, Cinder. Yeah, just to recap, guys, my name is Gia, and I wouldn't call myself a prominent figure, but I was probably the first female in the Hearthstone community to retweet or just bring attention to that issue. So I kind of got wrapped up in the whole thing. And just by the caption on my tweet, I was asking for a debate, basically, or just to bring some enlightenment on the issue. So, yeah.
Well, Cora is one of our teammates here, so yeah, we're more than happy to bring on more women casters into this discussion. But for the sake of the listeners, introduce yourself. Tell them, what you do in the casting world and in the Hearthstone community in general.
All right, so basically, I'm just a fledgling caster. I've only had one major event that I've done so far, the Malaysia major in December of last year, and I've got Thailand lined up for this month. But mostly, my realm of influence is in Southeast Asia. We're a pretty tight community, and I do some local casting events, help out with my friends in Singapore, and do what I can here and there. And I try to stream every so often, but I'm mainly a student, still in my actually just starting my 4th year of college, undergrad. So pretty excited to get that done. But yeah, I do tweet a decent amount of legend finishes / achieving high rank. So I guess that's how I got a decent Twitter following, or at least decent enough to start a conversation.
Yeah, and we're kind of well acquainted with the Singaporean scene as well. After Chaaange won the Titanar a couple of weeks ago, he was talked about on the show, and he sent a lot of his Singaporean friends to watch. So we like those guys over there.
Yeah, for sure. Chaaange is a good friend of mine as well. Like, we talk a lot on Discord, and this is a bit off topic, but I really do like how he has this whole formulaic style of building lineup. So yeah, the SEA community really tight.
We talked about that at length. We like that too. Our show is all about competitive Hearthstone and making that less obscure for people. So we actually talked about his strategy quite a bit, but that's for another show. Let's talk about the World Esports Games Women's Division. So they announced this, and this whole thing erupted on Twitter. What was your initial reaction to this announcement?
So to be honest, my initial reaction was just disgust and a bit of feeling insulted because my first thought is, why would they have to create a women's division? It seems like, kind of treating being a woman like a handicap, which is what I wrote in my tweet. But by no means did I think that there was no reasoning for it. I just didn't understand what it was, right? Because why would you have to create a separate division when women were allowed to join in the main division as well? And the women's division had a smaller prize pool and all. And I was thinking, why is this necessary, right? So I decided to retweet it with a caption that asked, what's the rationale behind it?
Yeah, that was kind of my initial reaction as well. It seemed kind of like a red flag. Like, why is that even a thing? So we ended up doing some research for the show, and turns out this is not a new thing in esports. There are other sports that have women's division as well. So like, how long has this been going on in esports? Is this a new phenomenon or what?
Well, to be honest, I'm not an expert on it, but looking through my Twitter replies and also having done some research myself, I know that this has been an ongoing thing, quite prominent in the CSGO community. I don't follow it too much, but that is a thing for sure. And I believe they've tried it for tournaments in Smash Brothers and other things. And actually, most of the replies I got in Twitter that brought up the argument of, this goes on in X community as well, so why not for Hearthstone? They were mostly applied to poker and to chess, which are not exactly esports, but also competitive communities that are dominated by men, right? And yeah, I know that the women's division in chess has been going on for a long, long time at the very least.
Well, I know a thing or two about that, being a chess player, and that has a long history of stretching back into the 19th century when it was widely thought that women were mentally inferior to men, and that for some reason that stigma still continues in the chess community. Is definitely a sore point for me. So what do we think World Esports Games was thinking? What's their rationale for having a separate division for women at all?
Right. So this is kind of at the crux of the whole issue, right? So at first glance, everyone wants to say that the rationale is to increase the representation of women in Hearthstone, have more diversity in the community. There's no one directly saying that women are worse at the game, right? So basically, if we're going to take things at face value and assume everybody is thinking proactively and trying to help, then that's the reason for it, right? But disclaimer, there have been some other tournaments, one that I know of that was pretty exploitative in China, and I sent you this link. It was won by streaming. What? Like, let me look for the link. My bad. A streaming network in China, which wasn't exactly named, but the issue that happened here was that the women were all wearing white dresses while they competed. This is Hearthstone as well, and it happened in 2015, I think. And they weren't seated on gaming chairs while at the tournament, whereas the casters, who are all men, were on gaming chairs, and the stage was decorated with, flowers and things like that, and then the rainbow card back because of, as the author of the article, Callum Leslie, stated, like, because that must be the women's favorite card back, right? So there's always that possibility that maybe the reason for having an all women's tournament is exploitative, right? But I do think it's unfair to assume that of a tournament just because it's from the same country, right? So if we're to take things at face value, then the reasoning is positive, right? We all want there to be more representation for women in Hearthstone. We want more women players and more recognition for them.
We definitely are hoping and trying to get to that point. So let's talk about women in Hearthstone in general. So you're a ladder competitor and you're a content creator. Have you faced any challenges based on you being a woman at trying to get into the scene and to compete?
Mm-hmm. So I consider myself one of the luckier women for sure, but the challenges haven't been so much in the breaking into the scene. Actually, I consider being a woman a double-edged sword, right?
Uh-huh.
So on one hand, people are very willing to give you opportunities. I've gotten like several team offers, not from big teams, but I know this for a fact. It's just because I'm a girl, right? Because compared to other people who don't get these offers, it's not like I've had many more ladder finishes or things like that. So again, if we're to take things at face value, I'm hoping that these opportunities are because people want more women represented. So on that end, it's easier to break into the scene as a caster, as a content creator, or so on, as long as you do a decent job at the game, right? Because of the want for more representation. But in terms of challenges, though, it's more of like kind of the petty discrimination you get on a day-to-day basis or online. So if you log on to any, and I mean any, well-viewed Hearthstone tournament in which a girl is competing, you will no doubt see in Twitch chat, everybody is saying grill, 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 and then you'll have some offhand comments about her appearance. You'll have some comments about girl player lol, and then if the girl beats a guy who she's most likely to be competing against, they will make fun of the guy for losing to a girl, so on and so forth. A lot of petty things like that, right? And because it's Twitch, you can never be sure if people are memeing or not. But the fact that the memes are even there is upsetting, of course, because like Hearthstone is not a game of physicality by any means. It's just, thinking and RNG. So it just doesn't make sense to assume that a girl would be inherently worse than a guy on average.
We definitely know that pretty well because when Cora got her first big shot at casting for Blizzard, the Twitch chat was absolutely awful, and the Reddit after the fact was pretty bad too. And the thing that I noticed is that anytime she made even the slightest misplay, like she missed 1 point of damage, analyzing a Zoom matchup, I mean, she just got blasted on social media. And that doesn't happen with the other casters. So it to me, that's indicative of the parts of the community in general, holding women to a different standard in Hearthstone. Do you find that that's the case?
Yeah, that's definitely a real thing. And in a lot of cases, I feel the pressure as well, because it's not like I consider myself to be representing all women in Hearthstone or all women in esports at any moment. But when you mess up and people tell you, people make a comment like, oh, girl player, lol, just implying that, of course you messed up because you're a girl, you suddenly feel the pressure to be, the best you can be because you're making everybody else look bad, when that shouldn't ever be a thing, right? But that's just how it feels, right? people see women as being so inferior at these games. Again, I'm hoping that most of it is just Twitch chat trolling, but for every 5 trolls, there will be 1 or 2 actual really dumb people. I had to hold myself back from swearing there. And just to prove these people wrong, you have this really magnified sense of pressure, I guess, that guys wouldn't have to face, because when you're a guy competing, you represent yourself or your team or your country. Nobody is generalizing you based off of your gender.
And we are kind of talking about this from the English speaking perspective, but Hearthstone is a global game, and some communities, some nations are even more problematic for women in gaming in general. Have you seen any of that in other countries, or even in your own country in the Philippines, where women are having an even harder time to break in?
So honestly, I haven't been to that many other countries, or haven't been immersed in those communities. I've played 1 Fireside Gathering in the US, and I've casted 1 tournament in Malaysia. Everything else I've done in the Philippines, and can't say there's too much of a difference. And granted, I have a really small sample size, and the people I meet in person are thankfully very, very gracious. And at the occasional firesides in the Philippines, you might have people telling you offhand comments like, wow, it's so surprising to have a girl perform this well. Or even like when you're first entering a place, people will be like, oh, damn, this girl is going to beat everyone. But it's in kind of a tone where it's like, slightly condescending, I don't know how to explain it properly, but that's a thing when you enter, go to a new place and they see that you're the only girl, it'll be like, kind of making jokes that like, oh, unexpectedly, she must be the best player ever. That's why she has the balls to be in here, right? She can't just be some, casual player or a regular person looking to try something new, something like that. And there's also a lot of just comments you get that people think are compliments. The way they phrase them is like, like what I said a while ago. It's really impressive because you're a girl. I mean, there's so few girls and you're doing so well. I didn't know girls could do that well, blah, 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 blah. But I think these are more just problems of ignorance and not truly being sexist. Maybe they're just not exposed to enough women. And that all feeds back into the problem of representation. That's why there needs to be more opportunities for women and more women in the community so that this kind of thing becomes normal, like when you see a girl enter the DreamHack venue or whatever, it's just whatever, just another opponent and another person that you view as a worthy challenger, to quote some Hearthstone memes. Yeah.
So what can we do as a community to increase that level, to get women into that space that you talk about?
Right. So this is where the whole argument of whether women's tournaments are appropriate fits in, right? So on the one hand, as I was thinking a while ago, my first opinion was like, why is it that we need these all-women tournaments when women who would want to join could just join the men's tournaments? And the answer is that not every woman who is into video games has been as lucky as I was, I guess, to be exposed to the culture. And I mean, I wouldn't even consider it lucky if I'm numb to like Twitch chat being, just stupid and things like that, or guys on an everyday basis being a little too rough, or just like, it can be a culture shock for some girls who have played video games on their own, or maybe just not with guys, with other girls, and coming into a competitive environment, which could be a little bit more rough, way more judgmental and things like that. And so it actually would discourage a lot of women from joining, a tournament which is dominated by males. So it's kind of like creating an all-women's tournament could be a safe space for women. And this is something better tackled in an article by Milk Tea, or Lil Chen, I think. She's a pretty prominent figure in the Smash Brothers Melee community. And it was actually during my Twitter debates with people in the Hearthstone community that I came across this article. But basically, she covers every important point, and her experience is very similar to mine. But this article was written about 2 years ago, so I feel really embarrassed that I hadn't read it earlier, because she had gone through everything I was thinking way before and worded it a lot better. So basically, she brings up the point that there will not all women are alike. There will be women who prefer to be competing against other women because that's more comfortable for them, and that's okay. And that's why we need these kinds of opportunities. And no one's saying that an all women's tournament is the best way to go about it, but it is a step forward. And, nobody's trying anything else, right? To have more representation for women. So instead of arguing about this kind of thing, we should be talking about how to make it work, right? What is the best way to go about this? Treat it as an experiment and hope to improve it. And another article that I linked you was something by Steven Messner on PC Gamer. The title pretty much sums up all of it. Esports pros on why women's tournaments are needed but not forever. Like, nobody's saying that these all women's tournaments should be a thing forever. They're just kind of a temporary fix, kind of just to encourage more people coming in. I guess you could call it affirmative action in some way. And when the field is more even, and I guess when there's enough representation for women and enough women who are willing to compete with men, then they don't have to be a thing anymore.
Interesting. So there could be, in the short term, a benefit to doing this if we can do it if it can be done in a respectful way, as a way to promote women in the sport, as opposed to thinking that they need a separate space. This is all super interesting, and I'm really glad that we had the opportunity to extend this conversation and maybe open a few more ears and eyes to it. So I really want to thank you for coming. But if people want to find you after this episode, like if they want to follow you on Twitter or they want to see your casts, where can they find you?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me as well. And if anybody wants to listen to me rant some more, they can come on my Twitch channel, just twitch.tv/Gia_HS. Newly got a sub button because all the affiliates were lucky enough to have that. And I am pretty active on Twitter, so you can just follow me at GAD_. And that's all my social media.
Great. So once again, thank you for coming on to Concede.
Yeah, thank you so much, Cinder, and everybody else for having me. It's really great to have these platforms to speak about things. So I really just hope that this WESG tournament will be handled respectfully and nothing like that other tournament that was handled by some streaming network. Because, yeah, as the title of that our article states, it's exactly how not to run it. So hoping for the best.
Same here. I thank Gia for that content contribution. And I think the artillery barrage is over. So Kenny, Hat, back to you guys.
All right, nice. So I'm actually happy that we get to cover this again because we did cover it on a previous episode. I wish I had the episode pulled up here right now with when Koro had a first big casting. So I'm glad we got to talk about it again, and it's kind of relevant too with the new tournament. Hat, you want to mention anything about what she's mentioned?
Well, I hadn't heard that interview before right now, and first, Cinder, great job. I was supposed to do that with you, but you handled it perfectly, and that went really, really well, I think. But I'm sorry that it had to happen. Much like I'm sorry that a lot of the things she mentioned had to exist, in that it's disappointing that gender has to matter in a game where you're literally looking at a name on a computer screen. But esports and games and all these environments, this is not new information, unfortunately. It's not the sort of thing that's never happened before, but I think the interview came out really well, and I'm glad that Gia had the platform to have this ability to discuss it as part of a larger discussion that I hope we keep going as a community. We want to be as welcoming as possible. We've got, it's our Discord is a very welcoming place. We've got a good amount of female patrons, and at least a few, and some good participation, but ultimately they're the same as any other patron, right? They contribute their money, they get their coaching, they talk with everybody else. It's a person is a person is a person. So I hope we can keep this dialogue going and just make sure that when we go out into the world, when we go to a tournament, when we go participate on social media, that we can all be a part of the solution of just interacting with people because they're people, not because of their gender.
It turns out that to play Hearthstone, you do not need to operate the controls with your genitals. Just your brain.
Oh, gosh. All right, let's move on. Yeah. Let's go ahead and kick it over to the tournament results, and we'll try something new.
In It's the grand tournament.
So I didn't hear a single word you said, but we're gonna go ahead and have Hat try it this week. Is that right, Cinder?
I give it a go, Hat.
So I'm going to be talking a little bit more than usual this episode because of Cinder's very patriotic neighbor, but we'll give this a shot with the Wild Open playoffs. I'll give it a start. And if you haven't seen the Wild Open, boy, those games were fun to watch. It's the HCT Wild Open. This past weekend, the top 8 was determined to figure out Hearthstone's first Wild champion. F2K's Control, who's a noted Wild specialist, seemed to steamroll his way through the tournament until he met the Italian player ALB987. I'll call him Alb. Alb dropped the first game, but then swept Control in the next 3. Control was still quite happy with second place and happy Wild getting some support from Blizzard. Alb was playing Token Druid, mid-range Dude Paladin with the Silverhand Recruits, Aggro Shaman, and Pirate Warrior. Not a lot of surprise if you've been keeping an eye on the Wild metagame report. Those are all very popular and very powerful decks. Control had a similar lineup, but instead of mid-range Paladin, he had Combo Priest, and boy, this deck looks like fun.
Who thought we'd see Velen's Chosen in 2017?
Yeah, but it turns out with and Light of the Naru, but it turns out with Inner Fire and Divine Spirit, making butts bigger is a good thing to do.
Velen's Chosen has always been a part of the community. We're talking about the podcast, right?
No, Kenny. We're talking about the priest cards.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
+2/+4 and give him +1 spell damage.
Thank you, Cinder. Yeah, go ahead and continue that.
So the Wild Open, and it was fun to watch. It kind of felt nostalgic to be able to catch up with these old cards. I saw a clip of a person flame wakering their opponent down to 9 life on turn 4, and it gave me warm, happy memories. Not really, but it was fun to see. And the person that lost that game because we're going to be rich. So anyways, the global games are also still going. We're on to day 38, I think the Twitch notification told me. And we've got Argentina over the Philippines 3-0. New Zealand over Brazil 3-1. Malaysia beat Norway 3-2. They secured their qualification in second place at 2-1. South Korea also beat the Philippines. The Philippines are unfortunately out. They 0-3. They are done. China beat Singapore 3-0. Very impressive win, and China locks first place at 3-0. In their group, New Zealand then beat Taiwan 3-2. They secured their first place with a 3-0 match finish. Very impressive from the New Zealand team. I'm not sure if we had them pegged coming out of the gate, but they are definitely showing a strong performance. Belgium actually beat the Czech Republic 3-0, but they were already out. This is it's a win, but not enough to keep them in, and Czech stays in at 2-1. Depending on other games, there's some possibility for some weirdness going on here. We also have Greece beating the Ukraine 3-1, which is very surprising. Greece has been strong, but Ukraine was one of our early picks to win the tournament, and Greece at the same time has been doing really, really well. Ukraine went in 2-0, had a chance to not lock a qualification if they got swept, but because they got that one win, the result for them guarantees a shot at second place finish behind Greece in their group. Let's see. Hungary beat Brazil 3-1. There's a three-way tie now in Group D. New Zealand's in first, but the tie for second is between all three of the other teams competing, but Brazil managed to get that after tiebreakers. Very, very close in Group D. The Netherlands beat Argentina 3-1. They secured their first place with a 3-0. South Korea settles in at second, and they both had very good runs. Austria beat Peru 3-1. Peru is out. Austria's win creates a three-way tie for first. The tiebreakers went to Austria, with Greece in second thanks to their strong showing, especially recently. The Ukraine is third, but with a 2-1 record, they're almost guaranteed to advance in one of the third-place slots, so I wouldn't worry about them disappearing early. Mexico, they beat Bulgaria 3-2. They seized first place with a 3-0 match record. They put Italy in charge of their own destiny. There's no external factor. Italy just has to win and in. The USA beat Israel 3-0, which puts the US at first in their group. They took over the Czech Republic. And then Canada barely beat Italy 3-2. They created a three-way tie in Group F. The game score puts Canada in second place, but Italy's game score gives them just enough points to squeak them in as a third-place qualifier in the actual 16 slot. Really, really tight race. Very fun to watch. The final 16. Your tournaments are, drum roll please, thank you, no need for a drum roll, it's fine. We've got China, Malaysia, the USA, America, Czech Republic, Belgium, Netherlands, South Korea, New Zealand, Brazil, Taiwan, Austria, Greece, the Ukraine, Mexico, Canada, and in 16th slot, Italy barely sneaking in. The playoffs begin next week with our own Cora casting. And also coming up, as of the time that you listen to this episode, HCT Spring Championship will be underway. Phew. Cinder, I don't know how you do this every week.
Actually, you did a really good job, as well as managing the Twitch as well. So, hey, props to you, man.
Yeah,
I don't look.
Sorry.
I don't look forward to the day that I may have to do this.
I'm so happy for Mexico. Like, they just dark horse story came out of nowhere. No one knew anything about them going into the first stage, and they surprised everybody with an incredibly strong showing in both group phases. Like, some of these teams kind of like fizzled out. Like, Canada they started really strong, and then they started to struggle. They barely got out of the second phase, and the US actually looked strong the whole way through. The Philippines had like a good start, and then they just totally petered out. But yeah, like, this Mexican team has been consistently good, and I'm really excited to see how far they go, because they're going to be kind of the Cinderella story of the global games if they manage to get close to the top.
Yeah, I'd actually like to see them. I'd like to see anybody in North America though. So
Yeah,
You gotta break 16. It's like China, Malaysia, South Korea, New Zealand, Taiwan. So that's 5 from that region. USA, Canada, Mexico, Brazil. So that's 4 from that region, and the rest. So it's a pretty even split among everyone plus China.
Yeah, the regions are pretty interesting. I think a couple of the teams as well that stand out. I'm surprised pleasantly that Malaysia did so well. I'm surprised that Norway struggled as much as it did. I expected that we'd see Denmark or Sweden on this list, but we don't have either of them. And a lot of the teams here, I think that we had a decent idea as to who would make it, but I think there was some pretty major surprise, and a lot of the teams that have the good chemistry, Mexico really stands out as well, and they're having fun, but they also have a good strategy. I'm really happy to see some diversity from what we expected in who's doing well.
Great. I'm excited for HTC Spring Championships. I'm also excited to hear about the next expansion. So, looking forward to that. All right, so let's hit you with our iTunes review this week. I'm going to go ahead and speak because you two are good. I was thinking about doing this in his voice. Golden Legendary. This is from Kunja Sears from USA. So this is it. You found it. The last Hearthstone podcast you'll ever need. Concede has fought its way to becoming my favorite podcast on Hearthstone. The cast is top-notch at providing news and insight on the game. I love this show so much that it became the first podcast I ever supported on Patreon. Give the podcast a listen, and you will not be disappointed. Thank you so much for your review. That's very generous. I like it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And if you'd like to do that, go ahead and go to iTunes. You could even I've done this for a couple other podcasts myself. I've created a second iTunes name just so I could leave a different review for them. Because podcasts tend to change. We don't have the same hosts. It changes from year to year. At least both years we've been doing it. And we're coming up to episode 100. So hopefully we can get something good planned. I have an idea, and I have a surprise for my hosts.
Oh no.
Yeah, we'll see how that goes. So yeah, shall we go ahead and get some explanations done? All right, so we had Appa for a little bit, and then something came up. But he left us the explanations to work with. So yeah, we're going to talk a little bit about burn or control mage. Cinder, you want to kick it in a little bit, or you?
Yeah, I can
Okay.
talk. Yeah, the apocalypse is now over, and I was able to switch my audio settings back, so any audio weirdness should be gone now. So yeah, we're talking about it. It's got a few different names, which is kind of gets under my skin a little bit. But some people call it burn, some people call it control, some people call it Cy Gunther Mage. So he was the player that kind of popularized it at first. But this is the mage deck that is all the rage right now. It popped up shortly after the introduction to the Ungoro expansion. It picked up a lot of traction after Quest Rogue became one of the best decks in the format because, hey, Ice Block is a card, and it allows you to just kind of like go over all those 5/5s with a bunch of burn and just win the game. Naturally, it does prey on board control decks, decks that are trying to get on board and seize the board. You think of your token shamans, think of your token druids, because it can set up the ice block and then protect the ice block with things like Blizzard and Flame Strike and other things, and then still maintains enough burn in hand like Fireball and Firelands Portal to close out the game once they've protected their ice block. Because see, board decks can't check that. In fact, that this deck has become so popular on ladder that Eater of Secrets is now being played so that people can beat that ice block and try to finish the game. I guess you could say honestly, by way of the board which they set up. It doesn't really have any bad matchups. Really, its worst matchup in a sense is the mirror, because it kind of comes down to who pops the ice block first. So it can become a race to break it, and then a lot of times you'll see these decks teching in Eater of Secrets to try and win those mirrors by basically taking one of the ice blocks out of the equation. So you see that a lot popping up. But it is a super flexible deck that has at times it feels like it has answers to everything, and it has multiple ways to win the game. You can burn out your opponent just by throwing spells at the face, or you can play value on the board. Get down your Medivh, use your Fireland portals to create bodies on the board and just kind of overwhelm your opponent with stats and stuff on the board. And there's a nice core of cards here. And Hat, tell us, what does the core of Burn Mage look like?
So, Burn Mage is like if Freeze Mage, instead of focusing on delaying the game, it has more removal that also functions as damage. Freeze Mage typically plays, Frost Nova, Blizzard, and it doesn't play these early game minions. It rarely plays Mana Worm. And we have stuff like Volcanic Potion, stuff like Firelands Portal, things you wouldn't find in an average Freeze Mage list. The core you're going to find here, it always starts with Mana Worm. And that's really where this deck diverges from Freeze Mage and where the playstyle, which we'll talk about a little bit, becomes more aggressive. You always want to start with Mana Worm. The card is ridiculous. Freeze Mage isn't looking to do the initial bout of damage through the board. It's looking to do it with Alex and possibly burn combo spells. But this deck is looking to chip away at your life total starting early, and Mana Worm is a big part of that. You have Arcanologist because the card is way too good not to play. You have double Frostbolt because it's Frostbolt. Double Medivh's Valet. Arcanologist has really made Medivh's Valet a much better card because you can guarantee its consistency a lot more. You always play Primordial Glyph because it's Discover plus an Innervate. Why wouldn't you play that? Double Arcane Intellect, double Ice Block, we talked about that card as well. Volcanic Potion, I would not play this deck with less than one, especially for the Shaman matchup. If you don't have Volcanic Potion, it's going to be very difficult. But just being able to kind of control the board early, you thrive in the mid-game with this deck, but not as much in the early game against more aggressive strategies. You need some kind of wide board clear, and you need something to deal with living mana. You play 2 Fireball because you're a mage. You play Meteor to kind of have that big removal. A lot of lists are running Polymorph, but I wouldn't call it that core, but the Meteor is in almost all of them. It functions more efficiently than it looks, and being able to remove one massive threat, especially in a metagame where Spikerid Steed and Happy Rag, for example, both exist, you want to have that option. Firelands Portal is burn and board development at the same time. Flame Strike is a really good way of ensuring you can keep their board clear going into your turn for your big bangers, your Medivh, your Alexstrasza, and then Pyroblast. And anytime you've ever played against that curve of 3 cards in a row, you know how powerful it is.
Literally, it seems like Medivh is just a staple. Like what deck you're playing against, obviously before then, but man, once you get to Medivh, it's just like, oh, so much to deal with after you've already got a bunch of stuff you've already dealt with. So,
And you are able to play with multiple plans with this deck, and I think a lot of the appeal is the flexibility that the deck is. You have two different game plans. You have the aggressive one and the defensive one, and both are really powerful, right? It's the decks that are able to be strong against both are the ones you have trouble with, but generally you can either take the plan of being more aggressive, which is generally what I go towards, and a lot of the coaching sessions I've had around this deck, which I've had a few, it's all about how do we win, how do we kill them, always be counting. If you've seen Glengarry, Glen Ross, ABC, always be counting, because you'll get to the point in the late game where it's turn 8 and you've got Firelens Portal, Frostbolt, Pyroblast, Fireball in hand. That's 24 damage. So if you're at that point of the game, just start counting. Just if you throw burn at their face, if they don't have healing, are they going to be able to kill you before they pop your ice block? And are you going to be able to kill them before your defenses are down? You'll probably be able to win. And a lot of the reason why Eater of Secrets has been so popular, especially in the Mage Mirror, is because getting that ice block out of the way, the deck often functions at low life totals with a lot of damage. So at the same time, you can also play the control plan, and you can just trade and remove stuff because you have enough burn that you're able to remove threats and trade and control the board until about turn 7, turn 8. And then you pivot into Medivh or into Alex, and then once you do that, if your ice block is up, you suddenly very quickly become the aggressive combo deck. You're able to do a little bit of everything, and a lot of your cards are really, really powerful. Most of the cards in this deck are class cards. The only ones we're looking at here that are not are Medivh and Alex. Every other card in this list on the screen right now is a mage class card, and most of the tech cards are also in the same mage class. It's very powerful. A lot of the common text these days. I've seen Blood Mage Thalnos. I don't think it's a great card. I personally run an Acolyte of Pain over a Cabal Courier. I think drawing cards in your deck is better than getting random cards outside your deck. I run an Eater of Secrets. I have one Doomsayer, one Blizzard right now. And I've had Polymorph in Priest heavy metas. I would say that Priest is a pretty difficult matchup for this deck because the minions are resistant to damage-based removal. They can often be buffed out of range of a lot of your removal. And if Priest plays correctly, if they're combo, they don't invest their combo cards until you've used your removal on another minion. Like, they can give something a Cabal Talon Priest buff. And then do you Fireball a 1/6 Northshire Cleric? Or do you wait and then suddenly take 12? It's very hard to navigate that and remove their threats, because a lot of times their threat is whatever they cast Inner Fire on. But they can threaten to do that at any point in the game, and then if they make a 24/24, if you don't have a Polymorph, you're done. So I found Priest to be difficult. And
Yeah. I do like Polymorph in Burn Mage personally, just because I find that Spike Ridge Steed is a common sticking point. Like, Meteor is not a clean clear for a Spike Ridge that's landed because it still leaves behind a 2/6, which could lead to another Spike Ridge Steed, or something like a Blessing of Kings occasionally. So like I just like having the Polymorph effect just as a hard answer to really difficult or complex threats that take a lot of cards to remove normally. But that's just me.
well, it's not just you, right? It's that was when this list first came out by Cy Gunther. He had 2 babbling books, and in the original list, and then his second iteration he took out 2 babbling books for a volcanic potion and a polymorph. It's a pretty common tech. It's not core, it's not required, but it's very good. So if you run into a decent amount of mid-range or control paladin and a decent amount of priest, I would absolutely play a polymorph. And when I teched in league play and I was looking to have an edge against priest as mage because it's generally not a great matchup, polymorph made a really big difference in that matchup. Now, volcanic potion, I would play the second one, and to play blizzard like I did if you're facing a lot of shaman, and I had a ton of shaman on the ladder, and blizzard was really, really powerful there as well, just having all the AoE. But that's the thing about this deck, is you can kind of tech it towards anything. It's the list I hit legend with in May had Avian Watcher and Harrison to kind of combat weapon tech, and the Avian Watcher was an anti-aggro card. The version I played last month was definitely more in the Freeze Mage. He was all about controlling the decks that go wider on the board, and if you were able to bait Shadow Word Pain, Blizzard Doomsayer is really powerful against Priest, and that was effective for me, but I didn't play against a lot of Priest either. And luckily, I didn't play against a lot of Jade Druid, because that's a really difficult matchup, and another reason why Control Priest can be difficult life gain sucks. It's really, really hard to beat because your deck deals it just burn damage. It has finite damage. It's the same as why Control Warrior was so good against Freeze Mage in the past. Burn Mage only does so much damage, and Priest of the Feast is a major problem for the deck. If I Alex you and then you Priest of the Feast back up to 30, I'm gonna have a lot of trouble killing you. And Jade Druid now with the Pharaoh Rage and Earthen Scales, they can often get out of range in a single turn with a Gadgetzan Auctioneer turn that you can't recover from.
True facts. And yeah, you mentioned Babbling Book earlier, and like Babbling Book was one of the cards that was in the early builds, and I cut it pretty quickly, and I see that it's being cut elsewhere. So like if you're running Babbling Book, I would definitely encourage you to try the Acolyte in that same slot, because like Hat said, you want to draw the cards that are in your deck. You don't want just random cards, because a lot of times they're not terribly helpful. The surprise factor is great, but ultimately your 30 cards are designed to win in a very specific way. You want those 30 cards.
And the random cards you want are the ones with Innervate, the primordial glyphs.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
And you want to choose that too. And
exactly.
You have a pretty good opportunity with Primordial Glyph of either discovering the card you want or another Primordial Glyph. 1 out of 5 times that'll happen. Because there are, I think, 28ish mage spells. I ran the numbers on this. And getting another glyph is really, really powerful for mana worm reasons, for and just being able to kind of rebuy and see another set of options. That Primordial Glyph it's really powerful. I'm not sure if it's too good, but I know that if someone told me if Blizzard ran the numbers and said we changed this card because it was too good, I wouldn't be super surprised, because it's I don't ever keep it in my opener, but every time I play it, something good happens.
Yeah, and I see that Appa didn't include Mulligan in here, so I do want to talk about Mulligans a bit, because this is something that I coached someone on it on Burn Mage, and we had this discussion, and the kind of the key point was, do you keep Frostbolt? And like, believe it or not, most of the time you do not keep Frostbolt. The cards you are pretty much hard mulliganing for in almost every case are Mana Worm and Arcanologist. You don't even want Medivh's Valet. Medivh's Valet does not power up until turn 4 or 5. Like, Mana Worm and Arcanologist have dual purpose. They both create minion pressure early against slower decks, and they have, good 3 health bodies to help you fight against more aggressive decks on the board. So those 2 cards are absolutely critical. And Arcanologist in particular, I mean, think about it for a second. If you ignore what the battle cry says, just pretend that there's a 2/3 that draws a card. A 2-mana 2/3 that draws a card. That's a really good card already. Arcanologist is a 2-mana 2/3 that draws a specific card, which is amazing. So you always, always, always want this in your opening hand if you can help it.
Good tips, good tips.
Yeah, I think on HS Replay, the 2 cards that win the game the most in the opener are Mana Worm and Arcanologist. I almost always mulligan for Worm, Arcanologist, Frostbolt. I keep Arcane Intellect more than I probably should. A lot of times on the draw, in certain matchups with that extra card, if I'm against something slower, if I'm against Priest, if I see another Mage, which can be dangerous given how much tempo Mage is around, or any other slower matchups, I'll keep the Arcane Intellect, but I probably shouldn't. And against Mage, I keep Alexstrasza. The card is so powerful, and in the mirror, especially if you have Eater, but especially if you think they have Eater, then having Alex first and guaranteeing you're going to draw it, almost always the Mage mirror is survive the Mana Worm beatdown, and then get to the late game and be the first one to pop the block. And Alex solves one of those 2 problems, and if you mulligan it, the chance of getting it back is lower.
Yeah, I think like Frostbolt is a fine keep if you already have a Worm and an Arcanologist. It's a good 3rd card, but Primordial Glyph is arguably better. And like Volcanic Potion is a good 3rd keep if you know you're facing up against a token deck. Yeah. In that case, yeah, maybe keep it, but that may be more for tournaments when you know your opponent's specific lists.
Yeah, I mean, I keep Volcanic Potion against Shaman pretty much every time. The first.
Yeah,
one,
on ladder
second.
now, yeah.
Yep, and I don't know. I don't keep Primordial Glyph a lot just because I seek out that early game consistency as opposed to the early game possibility of power. A lot of what I get at a Primordial Glyph, sometimes that cheap secret to trigger the Medivh's Valet is really nice. The cheap card draw, the reduced Firelands Portal or Flame Strike is nice, but I mean, it might be right to keep it. I got to look up the numbers, but I've generally been edging towards Frostbolt for early game removal. Even against Priest, removing a Northshire Cleric is great, and against a lot of decks like against Token Druid, if you don't have that Frostbolt and they have the Vicious Fledgling, the game is over.
Oh yeah, absolutely. There are going to be matchups where you prefer Frostbolt, but if you have Mana Worm in hand, and you know you're going to be the aggressor in the matchup, the Glyph can be really nice because you can go for a 2 mana or 3 mana spell after the Mana Worm lands and get like a second proc off of the Mana Worm's ability to power up its attack. So it can be useful for sure. But yeah, know your opponent. That's the best way to do that.
And it looks like I pulled up HS Replay while we were talking. The two most statistically significant keep win percentages are by far Mana Worm at 60.8%. That's disgusting. And Arcanologist is 59.1%. Medivh's Valet is shortly behind that at 56.5%. Frostbolt is 54.6%. Now, Valet is actually kept only about half the time. So that means when they're keeping it, it's probably on the same hands where they have Arcanologist. Frostbolt, on the other hand, is being kept 84% of the time, so still a good win rate, but it might be being kept a little bit too often. And Primordial Glyph, it looks like it's being kept 80% of the time. It's at 53.5%, which is still fine. It's markedly lower than the other cards, but the impact of having an early Mana Worm and Arcanologist versus having an early Primordial Glyph is going to be a little different.
It's like a fiery Winax, but for Mage.
Yeah, well,
percentages go way up.
Yeah, well, for a Mana Worm, yeah, absolutely. And Arcanologist is not far behind it. It's that card early, just being able to thin your deck and guarantee you don't draw any secrets is just so powerful. And a lot of decks now as well are playing Counterspell over Ice Barrier and Burn Mage. And being able to go, this past week I went turn 2 Arcanologist into turn 3 Counterspell against a Hunter, and I nabbed their Animal Companion. It felt amazing.
Well, what else would feel amazing is exactly what Psych Mopko mentioned in the Twitch chat here, playing a Frostbolt against a Fledgling.
Like it's a win or lose situation there. If you can't answer a Fledgling, then game's probably over.
Yeah, kind of feel good. So that's probably why we've seen a lot of Druid on as well as Mage on ladder.
Yeah, Jade Druid's a nice counter to this deck. Basically, all of the control decks, Jade Druid is your natural enemy. And then there's also the fact that these games, it's a control deck generally speaking. So the games take a while. Like 10-15 minutes for a game with Burn Mage is not uncommon. So it can be mentally exhausting. So like if you're the kind of person, if you're like me and you got 45 minutes for lunch, and that's when you play the bulk of your games, this is probably not the deck to play. But if you're at home, if you got a nice leisurely couple of hours and you want some good brain work, some thought puzzles that you have to work through and have a good chance of ranking up on ladder, Burn Mage is a good pick.
Yeah, it's really powerful, and when we say control deck, this one is maybe the most complicated deck to classify that I can think of. Freeze Mage is all about controls like slow the game down, slow the game down, slow the game down, kill you. Burn Mage has multiple different pivot points that change based on which game you're in as to when do I start thinking about how do I kill them. And the answer is going to be different every game. That's another reason why it's so complicated and so difficult to figure out how to play in many situations. Yeah, it's great. And it's a great deck to learn if you want to get better at the game, because it teaches that skill of when am I the aggressor better than anything else, because if you don't learn that skill, you probably lose. But if you look at your mid-game threats here, there are no minions in the core that cost more than 2 and less than 8. And the variations that we're talking about include a single 3-drop 1/3 that draws you some cards. So this is not an aggro deck by any stretch of the imagination, because you just don't have enough aggressive minions. You have a couple. You have some 2-drops and a very, very good 1-drop, but nothing else in between until you get to the end of the game and you're like plop and attack. So you want to make sure you view yourself as all you're looking to do is stop the opponent from doing what they're doing until they can't stop what you're doing. And you're just looking for that point where if I throw burn at their face, are there any cards they can play that disrupt me from winning? Healing Are there any ways they can swell the board in a way that I can't deal with, like Bloodlust, that I have to control first? Is there any counterspell that they have ice block? Is there something they can do? But once you get to the point where the amount of burn you have exceeds their life total and they cannot heal out of it, then you stop caring about their board and you start going face.
Yep.
Good to go. All right, shall we go ahead and end it with our emails here real quick?
We're gonna rock the foundations of the world, baby!
All right, so you guys have been talking. I'll go over some of the emails here. So this one's from Sam Spot. How do you tech for ladder? Should you base it on what you are seeing or trust the power of statistics and go by play rates from Data Reaper? I'm gonna go with Cinder, more data driven.
The answer is both. Strangely enough, because on a long enough curve, the data wins. If you're going to play 200 games, you want to go with the deck that has the highest percentage win rate across the board, because after 200 games, you're going to get your high rolls and your low rolls and your win streaks and your lose streaks, and it's going to even out. If you have a limited window of games to play, you may want to develop some skills on reading pocket metas. That means, like, the meta from 20 to 15 is vastly different from the ladder from 10 to 5 and from 5 to legend, and legend is different from those. And there is data on this, thankfully, on Metastats and on Vicious Syndicate, and it can even vary from rank to rank. Like from rank 3 to rank 2 is different, and you got to be able to look at the data and figure out, you know, what's best for that specific little pocket. If I'm only going to play 10 games tonight, what are my best chances based on where I am on the ladder right now? I mean, there's even hourly data that you could look at via Metastats to get an idea of what you're most likely to face. Now, keep in mind, it is still basically a dice roll. You could, you know, plan for a specific pocket meta and still guess wrong, or just get, you know, the not the decks that you should get. You know, even if your call is correct, you might just get those outliers. So it's going to happen. So it is both. I will put it that way.
You feel the same, Hat?
Cinder's smart. Yeah.
Okay.
We'll keep it there.
Yeah, I mean, you can't just rely on what scientists say, but you also can't just rely on what you're seeing. You have to do a little bit of both. I mean, I will say that when I was playing Burn Mage last season and I ran into a day where I played 6 mirrors and then 4 non-mirrors, and I got Eater Secrets 5 times, I stopped playing that deck for a minute. It might have been a knee-jerk reaction, but I didn't want to get Eatered anymore. That was just a small pocket that I hit. But yeah, it's data will kind of deal with the unemotional aspect, and also will deal with the larger meta, but you're going to be seeing things that aren't reflected in what Vicious Syndicate sees because they have a very different sample size.
And then there are players like me that just play to have fun.
That too.
Yeah.
I mean, winning is fun.
Winning is fun too. So there's different types of fun you can have with this game. There's so many levels.
Yeah.
Wow. All right, so let's cover the next one here pretty quick here. So this is from Altenberg. I know this was addressed in an earlier podcast, but now we've started the listener tournament. It might be good to revisit. What is the best deck selection creation process for Conquest tournaments? After I had my first set of games, I'm living in regret with my deck choices and wondering if I choose poorly. I took what I thought were not only some of the best tier 1 decks on ladder, but also the ones that I had the most experience with and the best rates with on ladder, and ended up going 0 and 3. My deck choices were blah blah. We're gonna skip here a little bit. Let me just say that we have covered this on a previous episode. Cinder had answered him in our Discord, so you want to tell him what you were mentioning?
Yeah, so episode 82 was where Appa and I did a little debrief on DreamHack Austin and talked about exactly this, about what's the best way to go about choosing a lineup, selecting a band strategy, and that kind of thing. And I actually talked to Altenberg specifically about his first match, because he expressed this this to me, that he was worried that maybe he did the wrong thing. I looked at his lineup. His lineup was actually favored against his first opponent. So either there was some randomness involved or some play mistakes, or both, more than likely a little bit of both. So I encouraged him to say, "Hey, look, your instincts were right on your deck selection, but go back and watch your games just to make sure. Like you never know what one critical thing you did to turn the tides in that thing. Like if you lost your first match, that could have spun the entire series. If you lost your first game, that could spin the entire match, against you as far as the percentages go. So yeah, check out episode 82 if you want a refresher, and we're always in Discord if y'all want to hit us up there.
Perfect. I'm going to hit this next email to Ridiculous Hat because this is a really good email, or not necessarily email, or as a question, but more of a feedback. So you want to cover that?
Yes. So this is from the Avatar to our friend Mirak. Hey guys, just listened to the last episode regarding accessibility in Hearthstone. While this doesn't hit the Blizz aspect of a solution, I do have a couple of suggestions. My son is 8 and has some motor movement issues. He's tested out a number of different controlling technologies, including eye gaze tech and a head-controlled camera mouse. If you haven't been exposed to this technology, definitely check it out and let me know. He's also part of a leading-edge brain-machine interface experiment that is super neat. He cleared the first level of Super Mario Bros. Without touching a controller.
What?
Yeah, so the future is coming at breakneck speed towards us. There's some really cool stuff going on with brain technology interfaces, and eye gaze tech and head control camera mouses are also they're pretty advanced these days. So I hadn't even put 2 and 2 together there, but I've actually watched some YouTube videos. There's a game called Keep Talking and Nobody Explodes. It's meant for virtual reality, but it's all about you see a bomb and then your teammates have the instruction manual for how to defuse it, and you're not allowed to look at the manual. And one of the players that does it, he has eye tracking technology, and you can see where he's looking. And so there are cameras now that will actually track where you're looking on the screen, and so you can use that eye gaze and head controlled mice. You can actually control the game without using your hands in a lot of ways. So even without this futuristic, like your brain controls Super Mario, there's still existing technology now. Windows Hello used this in Windows 10. If you have a computer with a webcam, you can sign in by looking at it. There's lots of stuff out there to make the game more accessible. It's not Hearthstone specific, and I still like the idea of adding Hearthstone specific innovations, but it's pretty cool. There's stuff out there, and part of our community is all about kind of us helping each other. So many thanks to the Avatar for sharing the answer to this question.
Absolutely. I love hearing even our own community sharing with others some of the personal stories and information. I think that's why I wanted to add it. It's really good to hear about these things. It needs to be exposed. So
and playing Super Mario Brothers with your thoughts. I just I didn't have an MP3. I didn't even have a computer. I had to listen to the radio and have my tape deck next to it and try to hit record when the song started on the radio so I could save it. Because that's, aside from buying the album at the store, that was the only way to get songs, like new stuff. So, and now we're controlling Super Mario with our brains. I'm on the floor.
What year is it?
What century is this?
Yeah.
All right, so that covers our email, and let's go ahead and head out of here. A little bit of a shorter show, but hey, we're making up for last episode. So definitely write in your emails to coinconcede@gmail.com. You can go into our Discord, which is discord.coinconcede.com for your questions in our question-specific chat. So head there. Let's go over our thanks here. So we have Stefan L. Thank you for letting us use your cover. You can check out his YouTube channel on our show notes, which is found at coinconcede.com. Our Twitter is coinconcede, @coinconcede. And Facebook is facebook.com/coinconcede. You can also shop for our soon-to-becoming double episode of shirts, soon to be announced.
Yes.
At
we will have
shop.coinconcede.com.
we will have both the Cabal and the Jade Lotus shirts up soon. TM.
Soon TM. Shop.coinconcede.com. And a big thanks to our dual producers. We have Variatus and Psych Mopco.
What?
Producers.
Double producers.
Yes, I said producers. Yes, that was during the bumper. Yes, Cinder ignored it.
I'm glad I stepped on it, but not glad that I had to hear it again.
Yep,
There you
that's
go.
what I'm here for, buddy.
Well, I'll fire back at you and say, if I ever get into the janitorial equipment business, I'm going to name my company Psych Mopco.
There you go.
All right.
Shout out. Speaking of shout outs, who do you want to shout out?
Oh shoot! You know, I didn't even think of a shout out this
All
week.
right, let's go with Hat. I think he has enough for all of us.
I have a few. My channel has 3 subscribers now. My buddy Animor Nexion, who's been my mod forever, and of course Psych Mopco, as I mentioned earlier. Thank you to Twitch for making the affiliate subscribable, but also thank you to you 3 guys for subbing. Unbelievable that people are like, hey, you play Hearthstone twice a week and record yourself doing so. Here's some money. Like, why? Why? I don't know. But thank you. I'm going to keep doing it. It continues to blow my mind. Big thanks to Vandragorn. He found me on BNet, not even on the ladder. And we played we did play on the ladder. We played at rank 2. And then afterwards he messaged me. He's like, big fan of the podcast. This is the first month they've made it past rank 15, and I credit you guys. And I was like, didn't we play at rank 2? It's like, yeah. So I don't know if we can take credit for 15 to 2. I think he probably figured a lot of stuff out, but he was very, very gracious and grateful and etc. So big fan of him. I'm really glad that we got the time to connect. And then shout outs to Redbubble. Look at this shirt. This shirt.
Yes.
It's so nice, and it's really comfortable. And the sleeves are perfect length, and it's got this nice logo. It's Redbubble.
Who did that?
You do good things. I think that Ember Descendant has done a great job setting up the Coin Concede store.
What a loser.
Yeah.
I did remember my shout out though.
Okay.
I am shouting out our listener and patron mid game. He is one of our Australian listeners, which is awesome. But he has been helping me admin the listener the league, and he has like knocked it out of the park. He's like, "Hey, coach, can I bat?" I'm like, "Yeah, I guess so." And he hit the ball out of the park and like smashed somebody's window in the parking lot. So mid game, you're amazing. I am so glad that you are on my team for this tournament.
Yeah, and any help is much appreciated. So my shout out this week's actually going to go to Cinder for the nice audio that you pre-recorded interview. I think we scheduled each one of us to try and go with
at
you.
some point.
At some point, yes.
Yeah, big props to that to Cinder for holding down that interview. That interview was amazing, and I hope we can get Gia on the show sometime. But our time zones are very
not
different.
compatible.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is why we partially wanted to do that. So glad she got her voice. Also, I wanted to shout out some of the people that are watching live. So we have Arctic Chill, Blue Spartan, Chris Leckness, Chung FR, Drunken Monk, Vagrant, Jasper, Riddly Diddly Dooley,
Jasper.
and Psych Mopco, and Slaviticus. There were some others here that joined us. We had Elac, 96. Some others were just hiding in there. We did have quite a bit who was listening to the interview. So, and did I hit everybody? I think I said everybody.
And everyone else.
Yeah, and everyone else. That covers everybody, right?
Yeah. So
those are my shout outs. And yeah. Speaking of Gia, let's give her stuff again. So it's twitch.tv/JIA_HS. And we have her on Twitter, which is at GiaD, JIADEE_. And she's casting on a regular for Thailand Major is the most recent one that's coming up here. So July 28th to 30th. Anything else you want to mention, Cinder, about her?
She is an amazing player, by the way. You should, if you want to watch someone really, really good at the game, go watch her stream. It's like she's already like rank 3 or so. Like I'm a different league altogether.
Yeah,
You want to cover
she's
yours?
hit rank 1 legend before, so like when she said I'm not that good and don't deserve to be signed to teams, I was like,
Well,
I don't know if I agree with that. Because yeah, she's good.
yeah, she was top 100 last month.
There you go. Need to get her on the screen more.
Yes.
Seems like she, just from that alone, she shrugs off a lot of stuff and has the balls, as she says. Yeah.
It is a regular theme here of people not thinking they are qualified to do the things that they do.
Yeah. All right, so let's go with a ridiculous hat here first. Where can people find you?
So you can find me in a few places, and there's one place you won't find me next week. I'll talk about it. You can find me on Twitter at Ridiculous Hat. You can find me in any number of Discords, particularly the Concede Discord, which has been even more active than usual lately because of the Listener League. I love it. It's fantastic. And you can find me on twitch.tv/ridiculoushat Monday nights and Thursday nights. I'm actually flying to Cabal headquarters next week for an interview for a job that would result in a pretty massive schedule shift if I get it. That might result in more stream opportunity. Not 100% sure. But we'll see. I will not be here for the cast next week, unfortunately. I will be on an airplane while it is recording, because I have to be out there until Wednesday night, and I don't get back here until at the conclusion of the cast. So you'll all have to just envision a beer mug as big as my head in the sky. But I thank my hosts in advance for holding it down. I know that Kenny and Appa and Cinder will do a fantastic job as always, but I will miss you all for the week, but I will be back on the 19th.
All right. I'm going to fill in here real quick. So Appa, you can find him at Cyclone Appa on Twitter, and Twitch is /AppaHS. And Cinder, what about you?
And I know that Appa, like he's basically in the process of moving. He's coming back home to Thunder Bluff, so he's going to be streaming like full time basically once he gets back here. School, then come home and cram a bunch of Hearthstone. Not that he already doesn't, but he needs to do it on stream with like good internet and not like rural Georgia internet. So I am on Twitter at Cinder Ascendant, and I'm also on Twitch, Cinder Ascendant. My personal Hearthstone shenanigans are briefly on hiatus while I cast the Listener League this month, but I host the Concede podcast Twitch channel, which is where I'm casting. So you can just tune into my channel anyway and watch me cast on Saturday nights. And yeah, well, August will be returning to form and getting back on schedule.
All right, great. And I'm on Twitter at KCCO_gamer and Twitch KCCO_gamer as well. Not finding me on there very much. We got Cora as well. We've got so many people here. Obviously, she's busy and still casting. You can chat with her. She just had someone over on 4th of July visit her. So you can see her on Twitter, which is at songbird_HS. And her Twitch whenever she gets a chance. Probably not a set schedule, but that's Songbird Cora.
And I know for a fact she is in Shanghai for the Spring Championships, but she is mostly just recording segments. I don't think she's going to be on camera, but we'll see. But she is definitely going to be front and center for Hearthstone Global Games playoffs starting next week. So go check that out for sure.
Great. All right, so that does it. It's a wrap. I'm going to leave you with keep calm and chive on. And if you see us on ladder, coin concede.
Coin concede.
Coin concede.
You have bested.
I choose death.
You win this one.
I concede.
You win.
This time.
Well fought. I concede. You win this one, friend.
The victory is yours.
I give up.